Hey folks, I want to read to you a little bit from the beginning of Psalm 78. O my people, hear my teaching. Listen to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter hidden things, things from of old. What we have heard and known, what our fathers have told us, we will not hide them from our children. We will tell them to the next generation, the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, His power, and the wonders He has done. The reason I shared it with you is because it speaks to the author and to the culture's desire to continuously share the stories of God to the future generations. So that God's power, God's strength, God's love would never be forgotten. So that the relationship between the people and God would never be forgotten. This week, I read an article from, somebody actually sent it to me. Thank you, by the way, for sending me this article. It's beautiful. The story is about a woman named Martha Hennessy. Martha is the granddaughter of another woman by the name of Dorothy Day. Now, Dorothy Day, I only discovered this because of this article, she was an American Roman Catholic, devout Roman Catholic, who also spent a great deal of time getting arrested. She was an amazing activist. She was always sticking her nose into things and trying to make the world a better place. You know, one of those kind of people. She was involved in protests and sit-ins, and she was continuously speaking out against the injustices that she's seen in the world. Anyway, her granddaughter was arrested basically for trespassing and for vandalism on a Navy base in Georgia. She's going to prison for what she did. But in her address to the court, she says something that I want to read to you. She says, "The final questions that dying children everywhere will be asking their parents is, why didn't somebody stop this? While we still had a chance to stop it?" Now that question, that really grabbed me. Why didn't somebody stop all of this when we had a chance? While we could still stop it. Now she's speaking about nuclear weapons, nuclear proliferation, but the question goes much further. It extends across the globe. It extends across situations and issues. Scientists are now saying probably within the next 5 years we're going to reach the tipping point for environmental disaster. There'll be no coming back from it. Apply the question, why didn't somebody stop it when they still had a chance? We're seeing an increasingly vast disparity between the rich, and by rich I mean billionaires, and everybody else. We're seeing a shrinking middle class. We're seeing the effects of unregulated, wild-eyed capitalism running amok. Why didn't someone stop it when they still had the chance to stop it? What other issues do we have in our world that our children, our grandchildren, in their dying breath may say, why didn't you stop it while you had the chance to stop it? Why didn't you save me from this fate when you still had the chance to save me from this fate? Now I know it might not make sense to read the psalm to this, but that question, why didn't you stop it? Our children, our grandchildren, for those of us of faith, they're going to ask us that question. But that question is going to be asked from a place of their understanding of our God. You see, in the psalm, the author speaks about sharing God, speaking about God. And that's how we tell the next generation about God, through our words and through our actions. At least that's the romantic way that we see it. But there is another way we share God with those future generations. There's another way that we share God with the people in our world. It's through our silence and through our inaction. When our children, when our grandchildren ask us that question, why didn't you save me from this when you had a chance to save me from this? What do you think our silence on these issues? What do you think our inaction on these problems says to them about our God? What does it say about our faith? Now, there is a theology in the world that says we don't have to do anything because the end's coming anyway, and that's all that matters. Yet people have been saying that for 2,000 years. Paul literally wrote 2 letters to Thessalonica to address that problem, to address that mentality. People had stopped paying their bills. They had stopped going to work. They had stopped earning a living. They'd stopped planting because they assumed the end was coming any day now. It was just a waiting game. It was going to come. It was going to happen. Why bother? Why bother planting a crop? Why bother working for a living? Why bother paying my bills? Why bother eliminating or reducing my carbon emissions? Why bother? The end will come when the end will come. At no point does Paul or Jesus or God, through any of the Bible, tell us, yeah, just sit back and relax, it's coming. Just sit back, don't do anything, don't worry about it. We will tell the next generations about God. We will tell the next generations about God with the things we say and by the things we do. By the things we don't say and by the work we don't do. How do you want them to see God? May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that we are as concerned for the physical, mental, and emotional, the environmental well-being of our children and grandchildren as we are for their spiritual well-being. They are a temple. Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual are 4 walls to that temple. Amen.